Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go ahead and do a review on my Prime Fitness seated row. Now before we get started, I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about why I think a chest supported row is an invaluable tool when you're training. Now let's say I have a lower back injury, which I really don't have a lower back injury, but if I'm being honest, my lower back is not my strongest muscle group. It's actually probably going to be my weakest link. So if I want to be able to train my upper back and I want to really focus on progressive overload, I'm not going to be able to do very well when it comes to training if I'm going to have to use lighter weight. Yes, you can do time under tension, you can do different types of holds. If I want to get to the most efficient training, I'm going to want to use a heavier load compared to something that's lighter, that requires maybe 20 to 30 different reps compared to, let's say, 8 to 12 reps. In order for me to go ahead and train using the heavier load, I want to be supported. I don't want to have to worry about my lower back. I don't want to have to worry about my core. All I want to do is focus on being able to train my upper back. So I'm looking at rhomboids, I'm looking at lats, I'm looking at rear delts, and of course your traps. So when I go ahead and I do a chest supported row, I can use a hell of a lot more weight compared to doing something where I'm doing a bent over row. And yes, I do train my lower back, but I am looking to train my upper back right now when I'm doing my rows. I don't really care too much about my lower back. And I know I'm going to get comments in the section saying, why don't you just train your lower back? Well, I do train my lower back. I do different exercises for my lower back. But when I want to train my rhomboids, my lats, my rear delts, I want to be able to train heavier compared to using lighter weights. This is where the chest supported row is going to come in handy. So this is why I use a chest supported row in my training compared to doing something like a bent over row. So if you guys don't unfortunately have a bent over row is going to be your best bet when it comes to training. But I do recommend when it comes to building a home gym, make sure you guys get an adjustable bench. So that being said, let's get into the actual Prime Fitness seated row review. Now guys, when it comes to this machine, it's a pretty simple process to order. You're going to go to Prime Fitness's website, you're going to go ahead and you're going to look at the actual plate loaded machine, you're going to click on seated row, and it's going to tell you guys the MSRP. It's going to say this machine is $2,786. I know, it's ridiculously expensive, but it is a commercial piece of equipment. And if you guys have gotten to the point where you're looking to buy this piece of equipment, then you're probably going to have a good understanding that it's very expensive, but it's going to last you guys a lifetime as far as I'm concerned. Now, first things first, you're going to have to go ahead, click get a quote, fill out some information, and then somebody's going to go ahead and contact you guys. So I do want to point out that you guys probably want to ask a bunch of questions. If you guys want to decide to go with like a custom paint job, now's the time to go ahead and ask how much it's going to be. I believe it's around $350, but I did not do a custom paint job on my machine, but I think the powder coating looks great regardless. And the other thing I want to go ahead and talk about is you do have the option of being able to upgrade your handles. So for an additional $125, you can go with the Prime Fitness rotate handles compared to the standard base model handles. So now is the time to go ahead and tell the representative from Prime Fitness that you want to go ahead and upgrade your handles. Now once everything is all said and done, they're going to go ahead and provide you guys a quote. Once the quote comes through, you're going to want to go ahead and review it, and if everything looks good, you're going to go and print it, sign it, and then send it back to them. And that's going to get the ball rolling. They're going to go ahead and contact you and send you an invoice. And now you have the option of being able to either pay using a credit card, check, or wire. If you guys pay using a credit card, you're going to have to pay a processing fee, but you're only going to have to pay half now when you go ahead and place your order, and then half before it ships out. Now, when the actual machine is ready, this thing takes about 10 to 12 weeks. They're going to go ahead and contact you guys, and they're going to ask for payment. go ahead, provide the payment, and then they're going to go ahead and they're going to send out this machine. It's going to ship by freight, and you're going to have to sit there and be home, and you're going to want to have a decent amount of space for this machine because it does come fully assembled. So guys, if you're in like a garage gym, this isn't going to be a big issue for you. You're going to go ahead, and once this machine comes, it's on a pallet, it's fully enclosed. You're going to go ahead, take the sides off, take the plastic off, and then you're going to unbolt it, pick it up, and put it in that spot. Me, on the other hand, I'm in a basement gym. So it actually does come with some instructions on how to disassemble this piece of equipment and get it basically into two pieces in order to go ahead and carry it down some stairs or fit through a doorway, whatever you guys need to do. You can go ahead and take this machine apart and you'll be able to go ahead and fit it through a doorway. It's not actually that difficult. I'm going to go ahead and put a one-page diagram up here, and that's going to have the instructions, and then you guys can go ahead and pause that if you would like. Now, to go ahead and summarize basically what this page says is it's telling you you're going to have to take off two parts of the frame. There's one part in the front of this machine, and then there's one part, I believe, somewhere in the middle that kind of holds the torque arm to the frame itself. Then there's this large pin that you're going to have to go ahead and take out as well. Now, that's kind of a pain when it comes to removing that pin. I had the most difficult time removing that pin compared to the entire disassembly of this machine. I was able to finally get it out, and I ended up having to have a friend come over and help me move this machine because it is very heavy. It's 350 pounds, and even when you go ahead and split this thing into two and you take it apart, it's still very heavy because the torque arm is probably the heaviest part of this machine, and it's super awkward to carry down stairs. So guys, once you're finally able to go ahead and bring over a friend or two in order to help you get this thing down the stairs or upstairs, wherever you guys are, you're going to go ahead and put it into place, and then you're just going to go reverse the instructions to go ahead and put this thing back together. Now guys, once it's back together, this machine is a beast. It is 59 inches in the length, 57 inches for the width, and 49 inches for the height. So yes, this thing takes up as much space basically as a power rack. It's not as tall as a power rack, but boy does it take up a lot of space. So again guys, this is something that you're going to want to make sure that you definitely 100% want. Because when it comes to a home gym, space is such a huge commodity, and when you go ahead and buy something like this, you're taking up a huge chunk of space. With that being said guys, this thing is great. It's actually a very versatile piece of equipment because when you look at the handles, they actually rotate 360 degrees and they do move side to side just a slight bit. So you're going to be able to do things like doing like a pull apart when you're doing the rows, and you're really going to focus on those rhomboids when you're doing your training. It's also going to sit there and have a bushing on the handles, and when it spins 360 degrees, this thing is super smooth. I don't feel any friction whatsoever when I'm doing my actual rows. When it comes to adjustments, this machine actually does have 8 different adjustments for the seat and for the chest pad. So for the seat, you're looking at roughly around 18.5 inches for the first adjustment, which is number 1, and then you're looking at roughly around 25 inches for the 8th adjustment, which is number 8. So I feel like it's going to meet the needs of any one of you guys when it comes to whether you're tall, short, or even if your arms are a little bit on the shorter side as well. When it comes to the actual padding, this padding is a nice premium vinyl. It's roughly about 3 inches thick, and yes, that is the chest pad, that is the seat, and that is even the shin pad as well. Now guys, when it comes to using this machine, there's nothing out there that even comes close, in my opinion. If you guys have been in the gym for a long time, you might have seen this exact design. And that's because it used to be Strive equipment. Now back in 2009, I want to say, they ended up filing for bankruptcy. And if you guys didn't know, Prime Fitness is actually owned by a company called Specialty Fitness Systems. And Specialty Fitness Systems actually went ahead and purchased Strive equipment back in 2013. So that's why it's now Prime Fitness and not Strive equipment. So guys, this technology is actually called Smart Strength technology. And when you guys go ahead and look at the actual torque arm, you're going to be able to tell why. There's 3 pegs on this machine, and depending on where you go ahead and put the actual weight plate is going to make a huge difference when it comes to training your actual muscles. Now, before I go ahead and talk about the different settings, I want to kind of get an idea. I kind of want to try to give you guys a basic understanding of what I'm talking about and how this torque arm kind of works. So guys, I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate this doing a lateral raise with just a 10-pound dumbbell. So if I straighten out my arm completely, this is going to be the hardest when it comes to doing this exercise, and you guys would all agree. Now, if I want to make this exercise easier, all I have to do is bend my elbow. And the reason why is we're talking about a lever arm. So my arm is the lever arm, and my shoulder joint is going to be the point of insertion. So if I hold the dumbbell and I straighten my arm, that's going to be the farthest away from my shoulder joint. Now, if I want to go ahead and make it easier, like I said, I just go ahead and bend my elbow. It's going to be closer and closer to the shoulder joint, and that in return is going to make this exercise so much easier depending on how much of a bend I have in my elbow. So that's kind of the same thing when it comes to this machine. If I want to go ahead and I want to work on, let's say, the beginning range, I'm going to want to have my weight the farthest away from where this connection point is for this machine. So guys, if you look, I'm going to go ahead and show you. This connection point is right here. So I call it a pivot point, and whatever you guys want to call it. This is where the pin is, and this is where it pivots with that torque arm. This is kind of acting like my shoulder joint. So guys, if I want to go ahead and train the actual lengthened position, which is right here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the weight on number 3, and that is going to be the farthest away from that connection point of the machine. So that's going to make the weight more difficult starting here compared to going and doing the full range of motion. So the way this technology works is when I go ahead and I start my exercise, it's going to be very difficult in the beginning range, and then as I move through that full range of motion, it's actually going to get lighter as I'm going through and driving my elbows back. That's the hardest concept to try to explain, and that's what makes this machine so valuable. You can go ahead and you can train the fully lengthened, the mid-range, and the fully shortened position just by changing the weight on that torque arm. So I do recommend, if you guys are actually interested in this machine and you're at an actual commercial gym and you see it, go ahead and try it out. Like I said, guys, it's very difficult to explain this concept of this smart strength technology that they have. Now, when it comes to training my shortened position, this is going to be the complete opposite. I'm going to go ahead and put the weight closest to that pivot point, which is number 2, and that in return is actually going to make the weight much easier at that starting position, and as I drive my elbows back, the weight is actually going to feel increased. The weight is actually going to increase as I drive my elbows back, and it's going to be the hardest at that fully shortened position. So I'm not going to be having too much of an effort at the beginning, but as I go and drive the elbows back, that's when the weight is going to start to actually increase, and then it's going to end up being the most at that fully shortened position. So guys, this one does have mid-range as well. So if you use number 1, it's going to give you kind of the same type of feel that you would get from some of the other pieces of equipment out there. It's going to feel pretty much even throughout the entire range of motion. Now guys, this machine does have weight plate storage on it, but there's only one of them, and it's in the front of the machine, and it's roughly about 9 inches for the length, and it does have a spacer on it, so you're not going to have to worry about your weights rubbing up against the actual powder coating of the machine. It's slightly angled, so the weights aren't going to fall off, and the same thing when it comes to the torque arm. Slightly angled, so when you're using the actual machine, the weights don't fall off, and And when it comes to the actual weight peg, it has a cap on it, and what that cap does is it tells you it's either going to be 1, 2, or 3, and that's going to be how you go ahead and decide whether you're going to load the beginning, the mid-range, or the end range when it comes to that Smart Strength technology. So guys, there is a nice little diagram as well when it comes to that Smart Strength technology, so you're going to know exactly how to go ahead and load either the beginning, the mid, or the end range. Unfortunately, when it comes to this machine, you cannot load the 45s on the beginning or the end and use 45s on the middle. And in my case, I can't even use a 25 right next to each other because there's just not enough space in order to do that. So when it comes to the maximum amount of weight, I was basically told by Prime Fitness that there really isn't any. The torque arm itself is about 30 pounds. And then when it comes to the actual weight, as long as you can go ahead and put the weight on these weight pegs, it's supposed to be able to handle it. So there's no maximum weight limit as far as I know. And like I said, that's what Prime Fitness actually told me. So guys, what do you think of this machine? Like I said before, it's going to take up a lot of space. It's very expensive, but it is pretty versatile due to the fact that you can train your beginning, your mid-range, and your end range using this one machine. Not to mention the handles, you can go 360 degrees, so you can go ahead and do neutral, which is going to be more of an emphasis on your lats. You can go ahead and do semi-pronated, which is going to be more of emphasis on your rhomboids, your rear delts, and you guys can go ahead and train unilaterally. All right guys, we're finally on to the price, which I kind of already mentioned early on in the video. It's $2,786. That does not include shipping. For me, shipping was around $460, I believe. And remember guys, if you decided to go ahead and upgrade those handles, it would be an additional $125. And if you decided to go with a custom paint job, that would be an additional cost as well. All right guys, this has been my review on the Prime Fitness seated row. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys hit that like button. If I missed anything whatsoever, go ahead and drop me a comment. And as always guys, if you don't want to miss any future videos, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, this is going to be my last video for the year. So I hope you guys have a great holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and I will see you guys next year.